Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, yeah, my name is Juan Badiola, and I'm the North America lead planner for paid media. And as you can imagine, being a video game company, video plays a very important part of our strategy across all of our campaigns. So I thought I would share with you some of the learnings that we have had over the last year when running video assets across all the different channels. I thought I'd start with an obvious one, but a very important one, is that always providing clear and upfront messaging on all of your videos. In this slide, you'll see two different videos for the same game, implementing those practices. On the first one, you can see the trailer starts with a very clear, very direct messaging that highlights what makes the game unique. On the second one, it's not as effective, and actually, the only way your audience know that this is for a video game is the Xbox logo at the beginning of the video. Given how low completion rates can be sometimes, if you save your branding until the last moments of the trailer, there is a risk that audiences will never know what the game was or what the messaging that you were trying to convey was. So here our learning was to really implement branding at the very beginning of the video so that you can capture your audience attention. Second, and this is an interesting one because as a global company, EA runs its campaigns across multiple territories. And we found out that having subtitle creative tends to perform better than dubbed or localized creative. And the reasons for this are many, but if you think about the fact that about 80% of all videos watched on mobile devices are being watched with the sound turned off, having the messaging available for your audiences increases how much the message resonates with them without having to directly interact with the video to turn on the sound or to actually engage in an environment that might not be pro sound. So this was a very interesting one and something that has definitely was surprising to us because when we in the past we used to localize a lot of our assets and we still do, but having the subtitles does increase performance quite a bit. Another one that was interesting last year when we were running campaigns for Battlefield and Anthem is we found out that 15-second assets were just as effective at driving brand messaging as the more expensive 30 seconds. So we actually, given how much more cost efficient these short form videos can be, we actually use this to increase our reach frequency when working on linear TV. This is not something that we really kind of makes a lot of sense because if you think about how much less time you have, but the messaging and making sure that the branding is communicated efficiently does have an impact. Good? Yes. Another one that was interesting for us is, as a video game company, we do work a lot with influencers and personalities and news sites that are knowledgeable and passionate about video games. And they have these audiences that are really engaging with the content that they put out. So one of the things that we've learned when working with these partners is to really trust them when they're engaging with their audience. They know their audiences better than we do. So for us to put content that is heavily promoting a specific sale or a specific CTA doesn't really engage audiences. They are very defensive because they're coming to these sites, to these personalities, to these influencers with the intention to watch their content, to watch them. So for us to really kind of like jump in and occupy that space really distracts from what we're trying to accomplish. So we actually try to focus more on audience engagement and really kind of like have our branding accompany the content than make our brand the content itself. And we've actually seen a lot better performance when this is the case. So as you can see here, we try to not be overly promotional when working with partners. We trust our partners to really deliver the message in an organic and natural way that they know will resonate with their audiences. Finally, and again, another obvious one, but I think it's a very important one, and I think something that will actually really ties in very well with the panel that I'm going to be doing in the next 10 minutes, is that we are working on a wide range of platforms and channels. And to think that one size fits all when it comes to strategy just leads to very poor performance across all of your platforms. So it's really important to understand the best practices when you are working for specific platforms and specific channels, to understand how your audience consumes that content. If you think about passive environments where your audience is lean in, having sound on longer format makes sense. But if you are thinking about social media and how the fact that audiences on social media have a retention memory span of about 3 seconds, you need to be very concise and very efficient in delivering your messages in those platforms. So it's really thinking about what your strategy looks like and how it best serves your audience. I think that the best takeaway from this experience is to understand and to always put your audience first. Think about how they're consuming their content when you're coming up with your strategies, because that will ensure that the results are much, much stronger. So I figure I would provide a quick recap just to kind of like summarize the presentation that I have here. And it's, again, off to a strong start. Really deliver the messaging and the branding of your content right out of the gate. Don't keep your audiences guessing about what your trailer is trying to say or do. Subtitles do perform better than localized creative because of how audiences consume content. Again, a majority of the videos nowadays are being watched with the sound turned off. So really take that into consideration when you're delivering your message to your audiences. The power of short form on linear TV. Again, much more cost efficient and equally as effective, so why not really prioritize those units? Be authentic. When working with partners, trust their capability to engage with their audience because they know them best. Again, putting audiences first gets you the best results. And finally, create ad experiences that are specific to the channels that you're going to be working in. You don't have to be on all platforms at all times, but really think about how you're serving your audience and trying to create the narrative that you're trying to convey and how you want that messaging to resonate with your audience. So I know it was a bit quick, but I thought I would give it a little bit more time for a Q&A. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But to make it a bit more engaging, I'm going to grab one of those microphones and walk around the stage a little bit.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? I actually have a quick one. You obviously, it's very important to you guys that you have a lot of data, but it seems like more people are saying more and more that it's not so much about the data, it's about the quality of the data, as you were talking about, but also, and it's also personalizing it. And do you think we don't necessarily getting too caught up with data, or do you still think that plays just as important of a role?
No, we're big believers in data. We actually do go through a very extensive process to really understand our audiences and how, like, I know I'm repeating myself, but how they're consuming the content and how they're like engaging with media across all different platforms. So really, I would say that data is at the cornerstone of everything. It's the backbone of what we're trying to do. And based on those learnings and based on kind of like the research that we have done, we try to tailor our campaigns to really be as effective when reaching our audiences.
So it's still your priority. I mean, it's not something that, because I think it's hard to get so much data, especially now as we're talking about with all the different fragmented channels and, you know, the market. So do people still need to get so concerned with that, do you think?
I mean, I think that, and this is going to be a very personal and maybe biased opinion, but I really do think that data is a priority, and it's kind of like does provide the information that you need. I think with all the resources that we have available nowadays, the days where like you would run your campaigns based on gut feelings, or like we think that because this worked last year, it's going to work again. I think that we, as marketeers, we need to kind of rely and really trust that that data is coming directly from the people that you're trying to reach. So why would they be lying to you? I think that we have enough platforms and we have a lot of, like, one of the things that we do at EA that is really important is to constantly be testing and really like understanding that what worked 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ago is no longer relevant. I think we're going to be talking about how how many screens now we have available at our disposal nowadays, and kind of like, if that wasn't the case 3 years ago, then how do we utilize those learnings and that data to really inform what we're going to be doing in 5 years, in 10 years? So it's constantly be learning and using that data to learn.
So keep with the data, but just then
Yes.
also adjust and tweak depending on your audience
I
and
mean,
the
there's
behavior.
something to be said about experience, right? Like, that's something that cannot be dismissed. But I think that you can sometimes risk putting your own personal feelings over data, and that's a very easy mistake to make. So really, kind of like, it has to be a tandem, like a tag team kind of sorts, but really, I feel like data is the priority when it comes to making decisions.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Oops, we have up, and then we'll go to
Great. My name is Guy 3. I'm with LiveRamp. Thank you so much. You mentioned your linear strategy and using shorter form content in 15s instead of 30s. Could you speak a little bit? When I think of electronic arts, I think of my son, my kids who are younger. So I think of a younger consumer, and so I think more about cord cutters, and so less of a broadcast or linear strategy and more of a streaming strategy. I was wondering if you could comment a little bit about what you're doing in the space and how you're applying audience and data to reach those folks, or what does that strategy look like for you?
Sure. So as I was mentioning earlier, I think it's very important to remember how we're using each channel. For linear TV, we try to align ourselves with very tentpole moments where we know our audiences are going to be lean in. But when it comes to video platforms like YouTube or Twitch, we actually work a lot with Twitch, social video, stuff like that, we really do try to tailor our creative to be that short form. Like, for Anthem, we actually ran a long form 90-second assets during the game, the NBA All-Star game, but most of our TV was having those 15 and 30 seconds because we are trying to create that brand recognition and awareness. Anthem was a brand new IP, so we really did have to do a lot of lift when it came to brand lift awareness because the game didn't exist. There wasn't any previous games where people could kind of like, oh, I know Madden, I know FIFA, I know these games. When it's a new IP, you really have to kind of like push it so that you create that awareness and that kind of like memory structure of creating like the effective reach and frequency to make sure that our audience, the messaging that we're trying to convey resonates with them. So kind of like to your directly question about streaming platforms and kind of like how we try to work with them, it's about aligning ourselves with partners and platforms that really do resonate with those audiences. For us, as I was saying, Twitch is a big, important cornerstone of our strategy. So we do work a lot with influencers and personalities within those spaces that know our games, are really passionate about them. Oh.
He's going to be up on the panel, so can we get to your question then? We have, I guess, have to move it forward with the panel. Is that okay? So, Juan, you can have a seat.
Thank you.
And this next panel, which, again, I'm sorry about.